Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide. Today I want to check out a couple of things, mainly regarding the Kobo Elipsa, but I'm focusing on the functionalities of the advanced notebook, or basically my script, because that's what it's built upon. Now, one of the questions that popped out in the comments since I released the Kobo Elipsa review was, do we have something equivalent? Can I do something equivalent on my tablet, normal tablet, right? Or do I have to buy Kobo Elipsa for that? And the answer is no, because you do have a paid app, of course, but a paid app that's available on, I believe, iOS as well, but I'm testing here on Android, called Nebo or Nebo. I don't know how it is pronounced because I don't know the origins of the developers, but that is basically the same functionality, because that app is also based on the My script, because that is the main core driver, or the heart, the logic of both of the approaches of the advanced notebook on Kobo Elipsa, and in this case Nebo on my Tab P11 Pro. So let's dive in and check out the differences, the functionalities, and also some advanced math stuff to see where are the limitations and what can we do with it. Alright, so first things first, what are the similarities, what are the differences? Well, here is the Nebo app, and it's a very simple kind of an app. It's a note-taking app. You can have, your brush strokes, your brush colors, and all that kind of stuff. But what we are interested in is underneath the plus button, which is basically where you add your additional elements, same like we have here on Kobo Elipsa. So we can directly compare here. We have the same insert drawing or the sketch. In this case, on both of them, we have a diagram, we have math equation, and freeform. So those four definitely coincide and they work fine, but on Nebo you have a little bit more functionality, considering that it is made and designed for tablets and phones and all that kind of stuff. So you have the ability to insert a picture or use the camera to take a picture with your camera and then insert that as an element into your ever-growing notebook. One other main difference is also in the types of let's say papers or the backgrounds that you can have, because on both of these are now the vertical ones, right? So it's infinitely vertical, but you can't scroll in the horizontal mode. So that's the advanced notebook that we have on Kobo Elipsa. However, on the Nebo, if you wanted to, you could create a free form, I believe it's called, or something like that, type of a notebook, which allows you to scroll horizontally and vertically, basically limitless, and that has a grid on it. So yeah, for mind mapping, designing, and all that kind of stuff, that's definitely something that's a really, really cool thing to have as well. Now, I'm not going to spend pretty much any time comparing the sketch, diagram, and the freeform, the elements that you can add into Nebo, because they are pretty much identical and they function exactly the same. So you have the same anchoring points for the drawing lines and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much exactly the same. So is the math section, but here I want to spend a little bit more time in this video and dedicate some time to the math equations, or what do they call it? Yes, insert math equation, simply because there was again several comments and emails that I received and Facebook messages where people asked, can I do this specific thing? Because they were interested in where are the limitations and what are the limitations of the basically my script math equation section. So let's check it out. I'm going to check out a couple of examples, and some of it works great, some of it doesn't, but yeah, so let's dive in. Before diving into the math stuff, I just want to mention a couple of things on the Nebo app, just to demonstrate that it has exactly the same functionality. So when you write something, you tap on it to select it, so single tap to select, and you can see immediately that it's already converting to text. So you simply double tap and it's a text. Furthermore, you can double tap on converted text, and then you can use your pen to use the scribbling gestures to do all of the things that you normally can do. So the exact same functionality, most importantly with those written gestures, is available on the Nebo app as well. Now, another thing that I would mention is that I will be using exclusively the Lenovo Tab P11 Pro pen that I have here, because I discovered that it works on the Elipsa. And while the nib on this one definitely isn't something to, you know, write home about and stuff like that, it's really a lot better experience than the default Kobo Elipsa pen, simply because, yeah, it doesn't have that clackiness, and the nib is better and it's more secure. It doesn't have kind of flakiness all around. So yeah, this definitely works. And that's if you're wondering what kind of pen am I using, that's the pen that's coming from the Lenovo Tab P11 Pro, and it happens to be working on the Elipsa as well. All right, so let's start with the testing of the math equations with the basic stuff, and then build up a little bit with the complexity and see where do we end up. So the first thing that I'm going to be adding on both of them is some basic stuff, and the basic stuff is going to be basically, yeah, let's multiply 6 times 24 equals double tap, gives me the same result, and let's see if they calculate correctly. So I'm gonna insert a math equation here. 6 times 24 equals, okay, let's double tap this time, 144. So that's okay, the basic stuff works, and you can see that the basic operations are exactly the same. You can scale, you can reposition where you want it to. Obviously, it's going to be faster updating and refreshing on the Tab 11 Pro because of the screen, but the basic functionalities are exactly the same. All right, now let's explore to the power of and square root. So let's see what we get. So got math equations, and what I'm gonna do here is first I'm gonna test out square root of 9 is, of course, 3, and square root of 9 is, of course, 3. Okay, well, I wrote very, very badly there. So this is something that I also wanted to show is how do I edit this? Well, remember the scribbles. So if I wanted to, I could just kind of scribble this away, and it goes like, oh no, everything's gone. Of 9 equals, oh, it's having a problem recognizing my 9 on the Elipsa. So let's try bigger top. And there we go. Okay, so it took a little bit more effort for the Elipsa to recognize my 9. Maybe I was just writing differently, or I don't know. So let's do square root of 3 squared. Can you do that? No. So it didn't manage to do that. Let's see if it can do 3 squared. Okay, so in this case, my scribbles were better detected on the Elipsa, and on the Tab P11 they were a little bit more or less precise. So 3 squared, there we go. So if I write larger, it's easier for it to understand. But yes, you can have a square root of a squared number. There, it recognizes it. So that's kind of cool. All right, so the next thing that's also interesting and important for you to know is that the MyScript or advanced notebook on Kobo Elipsa or Nebo app, they also recognize some of the mathematical constants. So let's check out the pi and e, for example. There we go, managed to get the pi with a flat top, then it works. Okay, so that's the pi. Now let's check out if it can recognize e on its own without a context. So let's do e. There we go, and it recognizes the e. So that's pretty cool, which means that you can use the e for the logarithms, which is kind of sweet to know that you can do that. Speaking of logarithms, let's check out the logarithms operations. Can you use them and can it recognize them? So if we have logarithm 2, 8, we should get a 3. And then we have logarithm 2 of 8. We should have 3 on both of them. And we do. So logarithms work as well. turning out to be very, very powerful and sweet. Now, one of the final things that I'm going to be testing out is the trigonometry stuff. So sinus, cosinus, tangent, and all that kind of stuff. So let's check it out. And this is an important one because there is a difference between the two, and I get some kind of weird results here. So for this test, I am going to add the calculator here so that we can, verify the results. So here I have sinus of 35 degrees in this case, because we're in degrees mode, is 0.5735 blah 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 blah. So in this case, I'm just gonna write down here sinus of 35 equals, well, that was, yeah, he recognized. So it says 0.573, so that is a good thing. Now, if I write the same thing on Elipsa, sinus 35 equals, I'm going to get something else. I'm going to get minus 0.428, and that is a rounded value of radians. So this is a sinus of 35 radians is approximately this. So now we have 2 points here that I think that are worth pointing out. First of all is that if I tap on the option here of the math equation, I don't have additional options. And I was digging around and I couldn't find an option on the Kobo Elipsa to switch between angle units. Am I going to use degrees or radians? Now on a Nebo, for example, that is an option because you simply go to settings, angle unit, and now let's switch to radians. And now we have minus 0.428, minus 0.428, and the same thing here. So that's definitely something that's lacking here. But I was thinking like, okay, so maybe this guy is smart and maybe he can actually recognize degree. So maybe I can just write the degree symbol and maybe that's the way it's switching. But as you can see, if I write sinus of 35 degrees, right, and then equals, okay, let's try again, equals, it recognizes the degrees. That's not the problem. It did recognize the degrees, but it doesn't know how to calculate it, which again, then I tested out here. And it is, ooh, okay, we need a sinus here. We have the same consistent behavior. So my script is not accepting degrees as a unit here. It needs a number and needs a definition here in the settings what that number is. Is the number in degrees or radians? And we are lacking that option on the Kobo Elipsa. For example, let's now switch this one to degrees. Right, and that's the one that's fine. So now if I go cosine of 60, because that's a good value for cosine. So if I tap, I'm going to have 0.5. However, on this one, cosine of 60 is going to be interpreted in radians, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So that's definitely a negative point of the MyScript functionality or how it's been implemented on the Kobo Elipsa in the advanced notebook. I hope they actually add that option because it's quite an important one to have. You can solve equations with one unknown if you add a question mark instead of an X. So for example, let's have 6 times question mark equals 24, and it will solve it for us. So, okay, well, not minus, it's equals. There we go. So now when it knows that it's an equals, it will solve one of them. And of course, you can get it to be far more complex. So let's see. So it is able to do far more complex things, and also if you have an equation that actually works, it is able to do if you have like 2 or 3 instances of an x in a very complex calculation between parentheses and stuff like that, it's actually able to calculate it perfectly fine. So really, really powerful thing to know. Now, my script recognizes way too many objects and functionalities that I can go through because, as you can see here from this list that I'm going to show now on the screen, it's very, very extensive. So this is something that requires somebody who has much better knowledge in mathematics than myself to actually test out. But the important point is that it is there and it's the same type of functionality. The core, my script core, is the same on both of these platforms. Now, why was I actually testing this out on the Tab 11 Pro? Well, because that's an Android tablet, and guess what? So is the Note Air. Here is Nebo installed on my Note Air, and obviously I can see the lines, but they're super faint, so I would need to do some optimizations here to actually make sure that I can see the visibility of the lines here normally. Now, the second thing that I already know without even testing it, and that's going to be a problem, is that none of the handwriting applications on the Android or on the Play Store are optimized for e-ink displays. So, unless I'm mistaken, this should be slow. Yes, and you know, normally we have really long latency on the non-optimized Android apps, which is a continuing problem for any e-ink device, Note Air included. So now let's see if it works. I'm trying to double tap on it, but it's not working. And there we go, it managed to do it. Okay, but it was anything but, you know, smooth sailing. So stop sleeping, you lazy boy. All right, but the one that we're interested in is the math equation stuff to see how actually that works. So let's insert a math equation. And I don't know where it is. So that's a bit of a problem. Let's refresh. There we go. So it's blinked there so that I can see it. So now I see where it is. It's very faint, but we can actually tap on it. Yes, select it. And here we do have the option of changing the angle units, degree, radians. So that means that I can write, let's scribble it away. Wow, that's super slow and unresponsive. There we go, it managed, but oh, it really takes its time. So this is really weird because as soon as I touch, okay, well, what? Oh, all right, let's delete this guy and try again. Well, apparently it's not just the writing that's slow, it's the general operations are very slow, Nebo, on the Note Air for some reason. All right, so let's see where the math equation is added. I can't see it anywhere. There we go, there's one. So if I write cosine 60 equals, can I double tap and get the result? Well, no. So, in conclusion, yes, Note Air is an Android tablet and Nebo is an Android app that, as we've seen, works perfectly fine on Tab P11 Pro, but for some reason, I don't know what reason there might be, it's not really working properly on the Note Air. Now, maybe it's possible to set up certain optimization features and things like that to actually make this work a little bit better. But even if you get everything right, you will always have that really bottom line unusable lag. So no, the Nebo app is not a replacement for an Android empowered e-ink tablet such as Boox devices. It will not replace the advanced notebook and the functionality of the advanced notebook that you have on the Kobo Elipsa. It simply won't be able to do that, as we can see here. Well, okay, for me at least, this was very, very interesting. I was actually spending some time and checking out the sum functionality and all of this kind of stuff on math equations. And yeah, I mean, you need a little bit of kind of getting used to how to get the nomenclature all the way right. But once you do, most of the functionalities and most of the stuff that's actually listed in that huge list of supported functions is actually working on the both on the Elipsa and on the Tab P11 Pro. I did some more fiddling with the Note Air, but I wasn't able to actually get any more better results. So for all intents and purposes, this is one of the apps that's really not cooperating well with the Boox system. Maybe some more optimizations, are needed to actually get it to work properly, but I haven't found the setup yet. For me, this whole thing was a conclusion and comparison how much of functionality do we get from the MyScript on the advanced notebook on the Kobo Elipsa. And yeah, we get actually quite a lot. One of the things that I don't like is, of course, I think that really needs to be fixed, is the ability to change the angle units, degrees or radians. That's something that is essential when doing calculations, because a lot of calculations are done in degrees and a lot of calculations are done in radians. There shouldn't be a preference between the two. There should be an option between the two. So in conclusion, I absolutely love the functionality of the MyScript, and I love the idea that it has been implemented into Kobo Elipsa. Once I was able to switch to a different pen, the writing experience already jumped up. And this is a pen that I don't like either, but still it's far better than the nib and the loose nib and the clacky nib that I get from the default pen. So it just confirms my initial feeling that I had when I was talking about it, about the Kobo Elipsa and the writing experience in my review, is that if you had a better pen with a better nib and you have improved writing latency, all of these things that can actually be done, then the writing experience, overall writing experience on the Kobo Elipsa will jump several categories up. And I already have that with a pen that I don't like. So imagine how it would feel if I had a pen that I like that I can actually use on this one. So that would have been pretty sweet. Hopefully we'll get different pens, so we'll get different nibs or things like that that will improve that, and hopefully we'll get better writing latency rates so that we can have a little bit more quicker as well. But either way, I remain thoroughly impressed by the Kobo's advanced notebook and functionality and the real-world usability. Really, really powerful. However, if you're using an iPad or an Android tablet, you have that Nebo app, which I've been using, and it really works pretty well, and you have the same math functionality, or basically MyScript functionality, in there as well, if that's what you're looking for. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please like and subscribe and ding the notification bell to get notified when the new videos come out on my deep guide. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye!